going on, guys? Welcome to Cult of Color, episode number whatever. I've totally forgotten at this point, but it is week 3 of our color grading 101 course. Welcome, one and all. And those of you who might be watching the replay, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. It's say Lambo Drive Zambo. What's up? Some folks in the chat. Bartman Dude. What's going on, Bart? Good to see you. Good to have you. There's probably somebody else hiding in there, but it's all right. Hope everyone's had a good weekend so far. It's a blustery, snowy, freezing, apocalyptic, cold fucking Sunday night, and I don't wanna. That's basically it. I just don't fucking wanna. So, holy mini. Oh yeah, this shit. What's up, Marcel? Yeah. Got the did a little factory reset here on the face. People are already freaking the fuck out. I mean, whatever, right? So go ahead, get it out of your system now. Tell me I look 12 or whatever. I don't really care. I mean, it looked like I found that food I've been looking for. You know what I'm saying? So, good to see you, Marcel. Thanks for coming in, man. Yeah, I totally forgot about the beard. It was a lot of fun at work because I have a lot of conference calls, and people are like, "Oh my god, oh my god." Yeah, well, anyway. So today we're going to be talking about project setup. We're going to talk a little bit about, you know, the general. I've touched on it probably 2 or 3 times in the past, but we're going to touch on it again. Just the general setup, the things you want to take into account when you're setting up your project in Resolve. We're also going to look at power bins, which can be very helpful for when you have content you need to have available across multiple different projects. So, yeah, people actually see what my face looks like now. So much different. I'll let it soak in. Yeah. Let me get that up there. Yeah. Yep. I know, it's crazy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Tonight's going to be kind of short. I don't have nobody submitted anything. I didn't find any cinematic clips that I wanted to play this evening. Songbird FPV did submit a video in the Critique My Grade channel, which is not necessarily critiquing on the stream. And so I asked him, but I haven't heard back yet on whether or not he wanted me to critique it on the stream. So if he shows up on stream and tells me, hey, let's take a look at it, we'll take a look at it. If not, I don't want to embarrass anybody in case, you know, they don't necessarily want me to. I mean, I'm not going to shit all over it, but, you know, it can be a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, you know, having something of yours critiqued in front of an audience. So, we'll just hold off on that unless he comes in here and says, hey, did you play my video yet? So, I mean, I'm happy to just give it a play if you guys want to see it. Just won a hat on the Wooptopia raffle. Yeah, so Lambo's watching Wooptopia races, and we were chatting back and forth in the chat prior to the show starting. That racing is something that boggles my mind. I don't think I've got enough brain power to really process it. There are some extraordinarily fast people where if they didn't have OSD with like an actual clock running, you would think they sped the video up. No idea how they fly that fast. I certainly cannot. I get overwhelmed pretty easily with obstacles, if I'm honest. That's why I'm not like a fantastic freestyle pilot, but I mean, when it comes to like understanding the dimensions of the quad that I'm flying and what I can and can't fit through, I think I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty precise. I can get pretty close to stuff. Yeah, so maybe. In fact, hold up. Let me do this. Shit, come on. Where is it? Where is it? This one. Here. case you guys haven't seen this. Where the hell's that background music? Okay. I fixed the audio, so now you can actually just hear what I play, and I don't have to...
Here I am, hauling my usual amount of ass when... Let's just stop right here and appreciate for a moment the gravity of this particular situation. The visually mathematic among you may note, damn, he's kind of high for this gap, or he looks like he's drifting off to the right. Well, you'd be correct in both cases, and if you were sitting there looking at this freeze frame, wondering if you were getting a second crash video in as many weeks, you'd be wrong. Bitch, I made it, motherfuckers! Granted, only by a single blonde one, but I made it. This was one of the few times as a drone pilot where I've flinched while flying. I was absolutely sure I was going to be showered from behind with 1,000,000 carbon fiber shards and whatever was left of my GoPro. After scooping the shit out of my pants, I realized maybe now might be a good time to call it quits, even though I have 5 packs left. And so I did. Thankful I didn't annihilate my shit for realsies this time.
I thought you guys would get a kick out of that. Yeah, I like flying close to stuff. So, you know, yeah, I figured being able to just play from the browser or play from a link in Discord is way easier than dicking around with the built-in browser in my video switcher. Which, I mean, when I ran FPV After Dark, I wrote a program that acted as the Discord bot in the submissions channel, and it would just automatically create a queue and go from one video to the next, updating it in the player on the in my video switcher. But the big advantage here is y'all get to benefit from my YouTube Premium subscription, so there's not any ads. We don't have to wait for that crap, and it's just simpler for me. I don't care if you see me dicking around with the browser. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with this shizzle. I'm gonna break out DaVinci Resolve. So, how you organize your files and how you organize your project, let's be honest, is a pretty subjective and personal thing. I don't expect anybody to do it the same way I do. Here's my new fancy project. Usually what I do, I'll already have a file open, or like a file window open. I actually need to do some of these. So, like, for instance, here's all the stuff for the 3-camera review that I still have to do. Friends with benefits. What? Did I miss something? What are you talking about, dude? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, so that 3-camera video that I still have yet to do, I wanted to go ahead and grade the videos individually and show the before and after as I was flying around, as opposed to just having that teaser that I did. So yeah, so I got the 3 stabilized. I got 2 stabilized. One of them was portrait. Oh, there's 2 files. That's right. So I used one for vlogging. So, and then there's the GoPro. So usually I can just drag over into the media pool. A lot of times I will start on the edit page and I'll just drag into the media pool window up here, and it's going to prompt me to change my frame rate. Let's pretend I don't have a bunch of 30 or... Oh, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I wish I put that together. That's good. Usually, my defaults for my project are 24 frames per second. We'll talk about defaults here in a minute. But, so I'll go ahead and just let it change, because I filmed everything in 29.97 because I wasn't using ND filters, and 24 frames per second without an ND filter is a cardinal sin. So 30 frames per second it was. And then usually I'm pretty much done with, you know, whatever file folder, unless there's images or something I need to bring over. Not too important. So let's just, you know, we brought in our files. Let's take a look at our project settings. So my defaults, and I'll show you how to set your defaults so you don't have to redo this every time. You know, my defaults are Ultra HD 30 at 40 by 20 and 60. That's pretty standard. like I said, by default it's 24 frames per second, but since I dropped 29 or 30 frames per second footage in there, it asked me if I wanted to change my frame rate before creating a timeline, which is handy. So, hey, fucking Rad, what's up, buddy? You ready to learn stuff? Well, I hope I got stuff for you to learn, bud. Welcome, 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 welcome. So, yes, again, like I said, we'll talk about defaults. If you have the Blackmagic Deck Link monitor 4K or just a HD one, you'll set that output up here. We're not using that tonight because there's no point in using it, because you guys can't see that monitor, and there's no way without like a whole bunch of capture hardware to recapture what that window looks like. That is on the list of things to do. If this stream becomes a serious thing, I'm going to get an external recorder. We're going to start doing HDR streams, and I will be able to show you exactly what my HDR monitor sees. But yeah, so don't worry about this. You don't really need to worry about this. And then, you know, you've probably already set this stuff up if you've ever used Resolve before. It has its own defaults. I have a specific drive that I use for proxies and cache files. It's just a fast SSD that I don't care how bad I wear it out. So, you know, I leave that there. Retime process. So retiming would be if I have a 24 frames per second timeline and I take a 30 frames per second video and plop it on that timeline, it's going to have to retime that video because the frames don't line up. So nearest just means it picks whatever the nearest frame of that video is and plops it down on there. And for 30 to 24, it would look pretty jarring. Motion estimation mode, that has to do with optical flow, things like denoise, temporal denoise, stabilization, motion blur, you know, artificial motion blur, and motion range. That's how you kind of dictate the motion that's pixel to pixel. What sort of a range is that in real life? Is it a long motion? Is it several feet that you know, that pattern moved, or is it just a couple of inches? And that pretty much kind of dictates how intense the motion blur will be. But that's not too important here. Those are specific to frame interpolation anyway, which is converting one frame rate to another frame rate. I don't do a whole lot of that, so I don't play with those settings unless I have to, and it's usually on a per clip basis, which I'll show you where you can, because all of these things, well, almost all of them, most of these things can be set on a per clip basis on your timeline. So image scaling, most of the defaults here are going to be fine. Mismatch resolution files, scale full frame with crop. So a good example of that would be if I had a shot with my Blackmagic, which would be 4096 by 2160, so a little bit wider than normal 4K. It would just slice the ends off and make sure there were no black bars in the top and bottom. Simple enough. Color management, this is where things get pretty hinky. So I think I've talked about it before. My defaults are set up for HDR. I use the DaVinci the YRGB. So Y is luminance, YRGB color managed. It's good enough. You can use unmanaged. By default, it'll be this, and basically Resolve is just not going to give a shit what color space everything is in. This is great if you know you're just going to be working with regular Rec 709 video, like the stuff that comes off of GoPros, and you're going to be exporting regular 709 video, right? The thing you don't get with unmanaged color, you don't get the intermediate color space, the DaVinci wide gamut color space. So when you're doing your grading, if you're in unmanaged color, you only get to use the colors that are available to you in your source. You can't actually make up any new colors. So that sounds more complex than it is. ACES, can't remember exactly, Academy Color something. It's a Hollywood thing. It's a wide color space, and what it's really meant for is being able to color match and gamut match different cameras. So you can make footage from a red respond to adjustments the same way footage from an Arri Alexa would, right? And so it has input transforms and output transforms. it responds differently to the tools in the color page than what you might be used to. So that's, you know, this is what I would consider an advanced thing. For high-end stuff, I'll use the Aces. For regular GoPro stuff, I'll just stick with DaVinci Color Manage. And I usually leave it on automatic. If you turn automatic off, you get to pick your color space for your processing mode. And you can even separate out the gamma. Super fun. But generally speaking, if you have it automatic, right, you're going to be working in SDR. You're going to be outputting SDR. If I brought in an HDR clip, it would automatically tone map that clip to look appropriate on my SDR timeline. And when I exported it, it would look normal. As opposed to, like, if you just play an HDR clip on your computer and you're not using Windows HDR, it looks all flat and dark and everything. So it's nice when, like, I've got a lot of motion graphics that are Rec 2020 and HDR, and I just like them to work when I pull them onto the timeline. So automatic color management, that's going to be way less of a headache. Don't have to worry about Dolby Vision, HDR10+, HDR Vivid. HDR Vivid is some weird Chinese standard. That's why we've never heard of it. I have no idea how supported it is there, like the televisions and stuff. I've never heard of it before I saw it in Resolve. Excuse me. And I've never heard of a TV that had it. So, yeah. And I cannot afford the $100,000 required for the Dolby Vision certified renderer. So, you know, I guess I'll go fuck myself. And you can apply tuts, Jesus Christ. You can apply LUTs to input and output, video monitor, color viewer. Probably not, like, for instance, if you're going to be working with, I can't even really think about what LUT you would put, unless you were going to manually change color spaces to make sure your color viewer on the color page always used a certain color space regardless of what, I don't know. Don't mess with it. You don't have to. And then definitely don't screw with broadcast safe. If you worked on, what was it? I think it was Game of Thrones Season 7, the Super Dark episode. Their colorist forgot to check that. That's why you couldn't see shit on that episode. And I emailed him and gave him so much shit. So you don't have to worry about it because your shit's not going to be on TV most times, and most of the time we don't deal with super dark scenes. So yes. Okay, good. I want to make sure my big head was out of the way. That's pretty much it. Yeah, you're not going to be messing with that too much. Fairlight's pretty standard. So Fairlight is the audio engineering / mixing / sound design kind of page, right? We've got the Fusion for visual effects. We've got Color for color grading, Fairlight for audio engineering, and then finally delivery. So if you kind of notice a theme here, right? It kind of works left to right. Anyway, so let's... I've got everything set up how I want for this project, right? We're doing everything in SDR. Let's say this is how I want to work every single time. When I open up Resolve, I want it to be set up exactly like this. So you come up to the little 3-dot menu up here, you'll see you can choose your default preset, and you can load a preset or you can update the preset. Same thing with default. So you can, let's see, current settings as default preset. Boop. Update. Yeah, sure. Okay, did that? Okay, good. And so that way, every time I open up Resolve, and I have to go back and fix this, it'll be set up exactly like this. I won't have to come back in here, make sure my image scaling is right, make sure my color settings are right, make sure my general options or whatever, make sure all that stuff's right. It's just going to be set up like this. And those settings also include... come on. There we go. The default directory in the delivery page. I changed it to this one time, and I either haven't done it right or I just have neglected to fix it. I haven't been able to change it to anything else since I changed it to this. I'm probably missing something very obvious, but it ends up as my default directory. Not a big deal. If you want to explore your media using Resolve itself, which can be handy, let me show you how that would work. So let's look at some raw footage from a few years back and show you how, like, auditioning a clip to bring it in without having to open it in a player. Where are we going? Oh, that's right. It's not the fastest thing in the world because it has to load a bunch of metadata. Not responding my ass. Come on. Your mom's not responding. So while this thing's not responding, and it's probably going to crash, I have to reopen it again. Does anybody have any questions on the project settings page on that menu system? Hey, there we go. Make sure you drop your questions at any time. At any time about any subject, you can drop your questions into the chat, and I will drop whatever. So this is handy. These are all raw files, and all I got to do is mouse over, and I can scroll through it. And if I click on it, then I can come back here and play it. And it's pretty handy. Like, you want to see what's in a clip, you can just. Hey, you know what? Stop it. All right, now it's really being difficult. Anyway, you get the idea. And then when you're ready to actually work with something, you can just pull it down into your media pool, or you can get rid of it. So that's one way to do it. And then if you're going to do a lot of actual editing, for instance, when I say editing, I don't mean necessarily what we do as FPV pilots. I mean, like, you've got multiple cameras, several tracks of audio, and you need to cut all this together to make a cohesive story. You would then use the cut page, which makes things very quick for that type of editing. It's a little bit superfluous for what it is that we need to do most of the time. So we just tend to go straight for the edit page and kind of edit more in a classical sense. This is what most people would be used to, especially if they're coming over from Premiere or Final Cut. This is the type of edit page that, you know, they would be most used to seeing. Now let's talk power bins. Power bins are super powerful, hence the name power bins. And basically they allow you to create bins of stuff that is always available in every project. So if you look down here, I've got a power bin called Master, which has like my 2020 logo for the previous brand before I rebranded to Nomad Aerial, which was Handcuff Cinematic. Ooh, pretty. And I have some effects stuff there that apparently is broken. And I've got my Nomad Aerial intro you guys have seen before. Right, stuff that I need to have on hand with any project I might be doing. There's some other stuff in here that doesn't really belong. I've got some stock assets, some little aero graphics, you know, if I want to be cute. I haven't really populated this with all the stock assets that I have. Hey Flexo, good to see you, buddy. So yeah, I haven't populated this folder with stock assets, but the thing that really works well is my music folder. So this I populate all the time. I would say 98% of this is licensed music from Artlist, Motion Array. I think those are the only two places I grab licensed music and sound effects. But by default, I have it set up by duration. So depending upon the kind of mood I'm in for FPV, I will start by cutting together or clipping the video that I want. If it's a single pack, that's probably the most simplest, right? You just cut the head and the tail off of it. So You don't have to wait 45 seconds and hear me plug in and hear me yammer to myself because I forgot to hold the preamp switch and fucking yeah, so single pack edit, it's just simple clip, right? And then it has a length, and I want music to fit that length. So I look at the length, and then I find music that I want, you know, and I'll pull it over here to audition it. And background music off. Right. It's a cool tune. I like this one. And then that way I can just bring it straight from there onto the timeline. And I don't have to worry about re-adding it to my project. When you do add something from a power bin, it does add it to your project. You see it up here in this bin, the main bin for this project, but it always remains available in here as well. So power bins are super helpful if you've got assets that you're going to be using a lot. To create a power bin, all you got to do is right-click New Bin, right? And then you populate it. You put stuff in there. It could be images, it could be videos, it could be audio. Yeah. You can even, if I believe, you can put effects in there as well. So you can create a fusion clip and then put that clip in there as you know, as something you reuse with a power bin. So yes, where is the remove bin? God, they hide that shit. So that's power bins. Now, if you get into more classical filmmaking or videography where you're going to be like weddings, for instance, right? You can analyze your footage for people, and if it's got time code, you can break it into shots and scenes, and then it'll automatically categorize each video that has certain things handy. So like an interview, right? It's going to have dialogue, it's going to have people in it. Oh, hey Bob, what's up, dog? Shit, I fucking suck as cunt. All right, there we go. Thanks for coming in, Bob, Casey, Ariel. Good to see you. Very good to see you. So yeah, this smart bins, for what we use Resolve for, probably not going to be needing those for too much. But the power bins are pretty handy. Great opportunity. So I want to talk to you guys about a fun little feature, something that you can do with so like I've gotten into vlogging a little bit with my videos, and I do this shit a lot. Right? If I just take the start and finish of me talking, it's going to be 45 minutes long. It doesn't need to be that long. And classically what you would do is you'd go through and you'd look at the waveform, and you'd clip the parts that you cut out all the bullshit, right? And you just keep it to what you actually want. There's a new way of doing that in Resolve. Oh yeah, Bob, I did a factory reset on the old face there. Okay, that's the timer for the intake. Yeah, we got it's obviously, everyone knows it's stupid cold everywhere. The intake for the burner on our furnace keeps icing over, and every hour we got to go out and chip all the ice off it, so the furnace doesn't stop working. And since I'm doing this, my wife is going to go do that. It only takes 2 seconds though. Yes, so we're going to talk about easy way to trim up a bit, as Bob liked to say. And so let's see here, which is my clip? My wife appearing behind me. Oh, okay, that works. Is this it? Okay, so this is my, is this it? Okay, no, that's not it, because I've vlogged with the DJI. There it is. So here's this horse shit. Okay, what up, kids? It's finally sunny out, so all right, so that would end up being, I don't know, how long is this? 2 minutes, wait, 11 minutes 35 seconds for this whole file is shit, or no? No, 2 minutes, 12 seconds. Okay, so one thing I can do is we can use AI to detect what I'm saying and automatically remove all the garbage. And we can edit using text. So what I'll do is I will right click the clip and we'll say audio transcription, transcribe. And it takes a couple of seconds to, I don't know, warm up, if it like vacuum tubes or some shit. Way to go, Mrs. Mad. What did I miss? Oh, okay. But it does the analysis pretty quick. And then what I have here, let me pull this out, make the font a little bigger. So what I have here is basically what I was saying. And if you notice, I click on words and it takes me to those pieces, and I can select pieces of the video just by selecting words. So these things here are the quiet bits. So first thing I want to do, and notice I haven't pulled that video down to my timeline yet. Make a winter coat for 20 homeless children. Unfortunately, no, I didn't. Next time, Marcel, next time. That's funny, dude. So, yeah. Stop. So in order to get rid of all the blank spaces, I'm going to go up to the little 3 dot here and remove silent portions, and it's just going to remove those out. Like I said, notice I haven't taken the video onto the timeline yet. We're pre-editing this particular clip using text. Yeah. She is clearing up the furnace stuff. Thank you, honey. I appreciate it. Everyone thinks you're my hero, which you are. My hero. So now I've cut out all the bullshit, and let's say I don't want this comment here, so I can just delete that. And then all I gotta do is select all and pop it down on the timeline, and it automatically cuts it all together and cuts out all the other crap. Now I can just close this. Okay, what up, kids? So it's really handy, like if you're like me and you say some off-color shit sometimes you don't want to necessarily put on the internet, it's a great way to quickly see the comment and just remove that comment. So it's a handy thing if you're into vlogging. It's pretty handy. And then grading this would be kind of a pain because this is like 800 clips. So then I would select everything and I would create what's called a compound clip. And then I have one clip that is the edited clip one clip to grade, right? And then I don't have to fuck with it. So if I come over here, it's just one thing. So that's kind of the secret weapon for making vlogging easy and making it tolerable, trying to shorten it up a little bit. Yeah, bins are fun. Bins can be very useful. It took me a while to start using the power bins as well. You can put all kinds of things in there. You can put adjustment layers. You can put compound clips. You can put fusion clips in there. So if you have an adjustment, you typically like a zoom with motion blur or something, like you want to punch in and you have an effect that you do that all the time too. You could do it with an adjustment clip, and you just pull that adjustment clip from your power bin on top of your footage and resize it how you need, and then you're done. You don't have to add the effects again and animate them again. You don't have to do all that stuff over again. That's the power of the power bins. Yes. Low Kelvin. Oh, God. That's funny, man. Think of the children. Well, you know, when children start grading their videos, I'll start making coats out of my beard. So, going full screen, can't see chat. Yep. Hey, that's a question for you guys. I'm gonna create a poll real quick here. Let me make a poll. Let me make a poll. Stay in 4K or go to, or nah. $1080. All right, so right now I am streaming in 4K. My desktop is natively 4K. I have increased some of the scaling, but I understand it can be pretty hard to see unless you're watching in full screen. If you're watching on a phone, you can read it, but if you're my age, you're going to get your readers out. So I have the option, obviously, I can switch to 1080p and actually change my desktop resolution to 1080p so that you can actually see what I'm doing and stream in 1080 as opposed to 4K. Happy to do that. So, yes. Bob says, good either way. Well, I mean, this isn't for me, guys. This is for you. So I want to know what your preference is. Everyone's 67% of y'all, which is 6 of you. The shruggy so far. I don't know. Whatever, man. All right. Well, we'll burn that bridge down when we get there. No, I can't go back and forth during the stream. Maybe what I'll do is next week I'll do a 1080 stream, and you guys will be able to tell the difference. And then you'll have an objective way to be like, yeah, I think 1080 is easier to see, easier to look at. It looks more like what I see because not everybody uses Resolve in 4K. And so I've got a lot of extra space where if somebody was using it in 1080, you might not have all that space. And things tend to get shifted around when you compress the workspace there. So maybe next week I'll do a 1080 stream, and then you guys can tell me, like, yeah, that's good, or nah, fuck yourself. You were in 720. Yeah, the YouTube player does not do a good job of giving you the best quality possible. I've noticed that, and it bothers me because like the 720 and 1080 encodes 2K. I could do 2K. Actually, can I do 2K? I don't know if... Yeah, it should do 14. Yeah, I can do 1440p. 60 FPS. I switched to 30 frames per second because it's literally half the load on my computer. But that being said, if the stream continues growing as it is, I will foot the bill and get an external encoder, and then there'll be no problems. So yeah, so we talked about power bins. I showed you a little trick with the transcribe audio, so you can edit, you can, I guess, pre-edit vlog footage with, you know, with the text, which is handy if you tend to say off-color things like me, and or you have a lot of and then, you know, as you're trying to formulate your next sentence. I don't work off of scripts. I just kind of go off the cuff. I think the caveat to that is for my voiceovers, I write a script and read off the script. That way it takes less effort. I don't have to memorize as much. So yes. So blah, blah, blah. We got a project set up. We got our material in there. We got our clips. We got our music. We got our whatever in there. We talked about power bins, talked about smart bins. We talked about audio transcribing for pre-editing a clip, which is, like I said, good for vlogging or interviews, for instance. And And it just creates a bunch of jump cuts, but you could, in theory, replace all of those cuts with a transition if you wanted to. Yes, so blah, blah, blah. You do your edit, okay? Blah, blah, blah. You do your grade. I'll just throw my 3 slider classic on here, which does work okay for people. But, and that's good enough for government work. So I've got the 5-inch set up to accept all 3 cameras. Yeah, fun stuff, right? Let's say you get all that done. If you're going to do any kind of audio work, we can talk audio some other time. I'm not the greatest in the world of Fairlight, but what I have done is large sound design setups. So after this series, we can start delving into sound design. And then when you go to delivery, so this is where I think a lot of people tend to fall flat when they actually encode their edit and go to push it up on the internet. I think this is where a lot of folks are falling flat. So this is an SDR, it's SDR footage on an SDR timeline, and the intent is to deliver to SDR. That being said, we still want the highest quality video that we can get out for the least amount of space. Now I say that, and those of you who know all the different types of video codecs know that this video could be, like, let's say this is just it, right? This whole minute and 50 seconds or whatever, or 51 seconds. Let's just say this is it. By the way, that's 51 seconds down from 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So that's quite a bit of savings of uhs and ums to get out of there. Yeah, there's another one. They're all over the place. So let's just say this was the whole video. Okay, so 50 seconds, maybe around 400 megabytes of H.265 at 600 megabit per second. Pretty good quality video. It'll look okay if you put it up on YouTube, as is. If you give it 8-bit color, which is the default. YouTube has this like policy, right? The bigger the better quality the file you give them, the better quality the encodes get. So this file could be anywhere between 400 megs at the small end for a high quality export to, like, I don't know, 20 gigs for uncompressed. I did one uncompressed upload, and I think it was something like 200 or 300 gigs or something like that. YouTube has I think it's a 500 gig limit for their uploads. I think. I don't know. It's been a while. I ran into it once when I did a wedding and I had like a feature-length film that I was trying to upload in a fairly stout uncompressed codec. Well, losslessly compressed codec. Let's put it that way. So there's 2 basic options for YouTube. I think for people who don't have, essentially limitless storage. I mean, if we go to my network drive here, 11.4 out of 31.9 terabytes from that network drive. That's down in the basement. It adds up, obviously, but I don't have to keep the encoded files. So could I shit out something that's half a terabyte and upload it? Absolutely, and just delete it when I'm done. Not everybody can do that. If you're on a laptop, that has maybe a 1 terabyte SSD in it, that's gonna hurt. You probably don't have that kind of space to kick around. So H.265 is kind of the next best thing. Well, it's the best thing for the least amount of space. If you're not aware of these codecs here, so MPEG-4, which everybody's heard of before, MPEG-4, you get H.264, which is called AVC, Advanced Video Codec, or H.265, which is called HEVC, which is High Efficiency Video Codec. And then new is AV1. The AV1 is a little better than H.265. You get this for the same image quality, requires less space. In order to do it quickly, you need to have I think either an AMD GPU or a 40 series GPU on PC. And I think Mac can do it. I'm not sure. I haven't tested if YouTube takes those. I know not everything can play them. My iPhone, for instance, can't play AV1 files. So it's not as ubiquitous from a compatibility standpoint as H.265 and H.264. If you wanted to compare 265 and 264, you're going to get the same quality for about half the file size with H.265. And it takes about twice as long to encode. That being said, with a modern computer, the difference in time is negligible because you're not really going to wait that long anyway. I tend to use H.265 for most stuff. I can choose the built-in H.265 CPU encoder in Resolve, or I can use the NVIDIA one for my GPU. I usually leave it to auto, which I think defaults to the GPU. And then I've set up customly, it's a variable bit rate, which means, like right now, if you look at the stream, the only thing on the stream that's really changing is me, right? This little area on the corner that is the camera. Nothing else on the screen is changing all that much. So this stream requires little bandwidth. The difference between each frame is small, so the file size is getting lower and lower, which is why, you know, if I have when I have my title card up and the music's playing and the little countdown thing, there's a whole lot of stuff that's not changing. And then YouTube screams at me saying the bandwidth is too, you know, the bandwidth is too low, but it doesn't take into account that nothing on the screen is changing. And so, you know, there's no reason for it. It's a variable bitrate codec, which means when not a lot of stuff is changing, we don't need to spend a lot of data to update every pixel, right? If all the pixels are going to stay black, then why spend data to say again that this pixel is yet again still black? That being said, there's what are called keyframes, which come every 1 to 2 seconds, give or take. A keyframe is that update that says, yep, these pixels are still black, or yep, these pixels are still blue, but these pixels have changed. It updates every single pixel, and then all of the frames in between the keyframes only update the frames that actually change. This is how compression works in one of the many different ways. This is how H.264 and H.265 work from a conceptual standpoint. So anyway, yes, variable bit rate is the default for H.265. You can force it to use constant bit rate, but it's kind of an antiquated thing. There's no point in doing so. You're just going to end up with a bigger file for zero change in visual quality. Encoding profile. So I think most people will probably leave it on main. I always encode in 10-bit, even if my source material was 8-bit, because anytime I've made any corrections, those corrections were within the DaVinci wide gamut. So it's a really wide color space. And so I've added additional colors that weren't initially there in the Rec 709 that have to be represented in 10-bit and not just 8-bit. So 10-bit, even for SDR regular video, is going to look more better than 8-bit. So main 10 is always a mainstay for me. And I don't fuck with anything else down here at all in Resolve. It's good enough. Advanced settings, this comes down to like weird shit like data levels, pixel aspect ratio, what to do with subtitles. It's, you know, if you have render cache, if you've already done a render cache, like you've got a whole bunch of effects or something in your color page, you've got like denoise and motion blur, it's not going to play back at real time, so you cached it so you could watch it. Well, you can reuse those frames if you want to. You're not dealing with raw cameras, so you don't have to worry about the debayer. Explain the difference between the timeline resolution and the render resolution. That's a great question, Bart. I really appreciate that. So Bart asks, please explain the difference between the timeline resolution and the render resolution. So the timeline resolution is almost irrelevant. I could have my timeline in 1080 and export it 4K, and it'll do its best. I say that because the grade won't be as precise. Because when you're working in the timeline, you're only grading the pixels you can see. So if your source is 4K, but you're working in 1080, then you're only working with those 1080 pixels, right? That's not 1080 pixels, but the 1080p pixel count. And then if you expand that out, well, it doesn't know what to do with the stuff in between. So if you have a 1080p timeline and you render out in 4K, it might look okay. It might be blurry. You won't be able to have the detail that you would have if you went the other direction, where like I've got a 4K timeline. If I render this out in 1080p, it's going to look right? Because now I'm doing what's called super sampling. I'm taking all of this information. I'm going to go ahead and discard basically 1/4 of it. And that includes any abnormalities, noise, or whatever that were in the 4K version. And I'm going to get a very detailed, crisp 1080p version if I render that out. By default, the resolution in the renderer is going to match your timeline resolution, but you can set it to whatever the hell you want. You can even change the frame rate. Well, apparently you cannot because we're using drop frame. There are some times when you can change the frame rate. You can even render it out square. And then what it's going to do, in my case, because I have it zoomed to fill, it's going to crop off the sides to make this square. And the results of these settings will become apparent as soon as I actually add it and start rendering. We're going to leave that at 4K right there. And like I said, Bart, I hope that kind of answers your question. I think a general rule of thumb would be try to keep your timeline and your render resolution the same. That way you're going to have a more consistent experience with your output relative to what you're seeing when you're working on it, right? So even though my color, my viewer here is not 4K, right? Because it's smaller than my actual 4K monitor, my changes are affecting every single pixel in that timeline. So I want that kind of detail. So if I do something like that mid-tone detail, right? It's going to affect pixels. Oh, Jesus Christ, we don't want that. It's going to affect all of the pixels, even though I don't see all of them. Hit Z to recenter and resize that. So I hope that explains that difference for you, Bart. You can get away with going smaller to bigger. It's better to go bigger to smaller. Generally recommended to keep the same sizes across the board if you can. So now I've got all of this crap set up. Well, except for this crap. I got to give it a name, tell it where to save the shit from. Let's see. This is last year's shit. Call it blah blog. You don't need to put an extension on it. Blah blog. Good, Bart. I'm glad. I don't know that you'd be doing it particularly wrong. The whole point of everything that happens between the media and the deliver page is it's supposed to be non-destructive. It's non-linear and non-destructive. So working in a 1080p timeline theoretically shouldn't cause a loss of quality in your deliverable if it's 4K, if your grade is just basically some corrections. I don't think that's particularly wrong. If it was wrong, I don't think Resolve would let you do it. But I've never done it, and maybe I should do an experiment and see if I do some pixel peeping and see if there's actually a difference, or if it's actually considering, like, I've done everything I've done, right? And basically I've just kind of set up the settings that I want it to use when it actually renders. And so when I hit render, it doesn't care about my timeline resolution anymore, and it just goes from source to deliver straight through all the settings that I created. It could be. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just a guy. I didn't write the software, but I can do some testing, or I can talk to my contacts at Blackmagic and find out. There's probably a lot of people much smarter than myself on the Blackmagic forums that would be happy to tell me how wrong I am for asking such a question. So your mileage may vary should you choose to venture into the Blackmagic forums. I have some strong feelings about them folks. Smoother edit previewing. Yeah, I get that. I mean, up, so everything will be. Your mileage may vary, right? Everything at 4K plays smooth. Everything at 8K plays smooth on my machine. That's just a. Yeah, I mean the 3070 is not particularly a slouch. I have found that as Resolve has matured, it's gotten more and more hungry for the GPUs. When I started on Resolve, This is 2017. I had a 1080 Ti, and then I had two 1080 Ti's, and two 1080 Ti's was decent. I could play most stuff smoothly in 4K. And then I had a 3090, and then that 3090, I mean, it was a bomb ass card, but like everything started getting harder to do. Like I started running out of memory on a 3090. Are you fucking kidding me? And I was like, what? And like, well, I was doing a lot of compositing in 8K, and I didn't think that was that big of a deal, but apparently it is a big deal. And now I got the 4090, and I just avoid those situations that are super memory hungry. But it kills me as I'm like 30, like yourself, 3070, right? What, you only got like you got 8, 10, 12 gigs of RAM or something like that on that card? And I'm over here with 24 gigs running out of memory like an asshole. You know, I for a little while I had to use a 3080 because my 3090 died, and the 3080 only had 11 gigs on it or something. It was so cramped, I could barely do anything. So I feel your pain to an extent. My recommendation is do what works best for you in your situation, your hardware. You got to piss with the cock you got. I say that at least once a week nowadays. So yeah. So we got this set up. Now we're gonna hit add to render queue, and we're gonna shit that out. Hopefully I haven't run out of encoders. So it's going about, 111 frames per second. But that kind of gives you an idea, right? Fuck off. We don't need to finish it. So let's talk about some of the other more intermediate codecs that you might want to deliver to YouTube in for maximum quality. MP4 or H.265, great for YouTube. Works with SDR and HDR just fine. It looks okay-ish in most cases. However, on Windows, you're going to want to use QuickTime DNxHR. You have some options here, and some of these might look familiar if you're a Mac user. So DNxHR and DNxHD are Avid codecs from back in the day, but you can really think of them as ProRes knockoffs, since Apple still has yet to properly license ProRes for Windows. I take that back. I believe Apple licensed Adobe to export ProRes on Windows. I don't know why they're being such pains in the dick about it, but anyway, we can't export ProRes in Resolve on Windows, so the next best thing is DNxHR. It's essentially the same codec. I typically just go with 444 12-bit. Makes a huge file, but it is maximum quality. It is essentially lossless. What the 444 means is the chroma subsampling. So it's going to use 4 bits to describe, in a group of 4 pixels, it's going to use 4 bits to describe the luminance and 4 bits to describe the color in each pixel. Or rather, I think I got that a little off. So in a group of 4 pixels, it's going to have 4 separate pixels to describe luminance and 4 separate pixels to describe chrominance. And that's like maximum quality. So if you're looking at your computer screen right now, you're looking at a display that is 444 chroma subsampling. That's why it looks so sharp. Every single pixel has its own individual color and luminance value. If you watch on a TV, you're probably looking at something that's 420. So every group of 4 pixels, you get 2 rows that describe the chrominance, or sorry, the luminance, and then 1 value that describes all 4 of those pixels for their color. They don't look exactly the same. That's why you don't see giant blocks in most cases, because the luminance value for those pixels have changed, but not the chrominance value, the actual raw color. Subsampling is another way that they achieve compression. For the sake of YouTube, and like I showed you over here, the encoder here has the capability of, where did it go? Oh, AV1, yeah, H.265. So H.265 has the ability to export 444 and 444 10-bit. Neither of these are going to go well on YouTube. Don't fuck with them. Stay with just regular old main 10, which is 420 chroma subsampling. It'll look good enough. If you want to give, you want to give YouTube the best possible codec, the best possible quality video, DNxHR 444 12-bit is going to be where it's at. Is a file bigger than it probably needs to be? Yes, but what ends up happening is the lowest amount of compression you give YouTube, the better quality, the lower compressed. Yes, Falcon Red. 10-bit will export with 10-bit color. And that largely is because if you're using the managed color, using DaVinci wide gamut on your timeline, if you make color adjustments, you're going to be utilizing colors in the image that don't exist in the color space that you're going to be exporting in inherently. When you export 10-bit, you're kind of faking the funk. You get a little bit, you get more hues, you get less banding. Banding is the gnarly, yeah. So let's look at this question again here. Falcon Red says, so main 10 will export 10-bit color, so don't need HDR for that. And does this then fit in the Rec 709 color space? Still use H.265 still for the export, right? Yes to all of those questions. Yes, Rec 709, you can support 10-bit, which does give you technically more colors, but it's just, you're not expanding the color space. Normally you only have 256 values for each color when you're talking about a combination of the chrominance and luminance values. What this does is give you colors that are in between those values. It gets more precise. So when you have a sky is a really great example, where you have like a dark blue and a light blue, and you get more colors in between, so there's less banding. If you crank up the contrast, let me see if I can actually do this here. All of these are, this one is 8-bit. So let me just pop that on there. We don't care about that. So let me find a good example here. Okay, so if I crank the contrast on this. All right, so you see how the colors are breaking up in here? This is an extraordinarily exaggerated way to illustrate this. All right, there it is. So you see these smaller lines here? These are the individual colors that are available in the Rec 709 color space in 8-bit. Okay, I can't do anything about this. This is all I have to work with, unless I start changing the colors, or I use something that actually, like for instance, I can use denoise, and it will smooth those bands out, because I'm looking, my timeline has a lot more colors than the original footage does. So if I can use something that smudges them together, then I get a lot less of that banding there. Now this is an extreme example, and that banding is not that bad for what I've done to this poor footage. So I mean, that's pretty good, but that's what 8-bit looks like. 10-bit, a lot more smoother. 10-bit, you get 64,000, is it 65,536 or is it 16,384? You get 16,384, I believe, colors per, or values per color per channel. So it's a lot more fine-grained. But the answer to the question is yes, it all still works. So let me know if I answer your question, Falcon Rad. So yeah, we're gonna just leave that shitty grade there. It's gonna be hilarious. So the lower the compression, the larger file you can give YouTube, the better the 1080p, the 720p, the 360p, the better all of those sub-encodes look. And to some degree, the faster you can get to the final encoded 4K or the final encoded 4K HDR. DNxHR is really quick to getting to 4K, even when you use HDR. Now, for whatever fuck reason, if I give YouTube an HDR video in DNxHR 4K, awesome, Falcon Rad, thank you for confirming. If I gave YouTube DNxHR HDR, which the only difference between HDR and SDR is a flag. Okay, it has the same, like, you can have HDR and Rec 709. The banding is going to be a lot more pronounced, but you can do it. You can export HDR video in Rec 709. You can do it all day long. But it's basically a flag that says, I'm no longer worried. I'm no longer like working in this limited value. I'm working on absolute nits, right? So a nit is candela per centimeter squared, I think it is, which is why lower nit values on larger TVs tend to look brighter than advertised. So you're talking about the actual luminance value that you're shooting for in your grade when you're working HDR. You want your skin tones to be around 100 nits, right? You want your skies to be 250 nits, and it's logarithmic. So 10 nits is half as bright as 100 nits is half as bright as 1,000 nits. So 100 nits is about halfway. And then obviously 10,000 nits is twice as bright as 1,000 nits. And it depends on the window also. A lot of TVs can't do their maximum brightness full screen white. I'm going off the rails here. Just going off the rails. So yes, the better file you can get to YouTube, the better your shit's gonna look. If you want to get extreme with it, you can go QuickTime uncompressed, and then you get two high-end options. Well, the YUV color space is more geared towards video. RGB would be, I mean, it's still video, but it's just a different color space. They're essentially the same thing. RGB typically is 444 as opposed to 422, so I think that's why they use YUV for 422. BGRA is, they changed the color order for specific types of displays. BGRA would look better on, I can't even think of the kind of display, but if you take a chroma subsampled file that is RGB and you play it on a display that has pixels BGR, everything's going to look fucking weird. It's not going to be very sharp. So that's the thing. And they're 8-bit, and the A is alpha. So this one has transparency to it. You can have places that are just blank. DNX HR also supports transparency, or the alpha channel. You can even render this interlace, but you go uncompressed. I'm telling you, the hell was it? I did one upload to YouTube that was uncompressed. Looks fantastic. Grade a little bit off because I had just gotten the GoPro Hero 12 and wasn't quite as tuned in on how to work with the GP log. But from a quality standpoint, the footage looked fantastic once it was done processing on YouTube's end. So, but we're talking like 100 gigs for a minute or something like that. It's ridiculous. It may as well just be raw. And like I said, I think YouTube's got a 500 gig hard limit on file size. I don't think there's a limit on playback length. So you could, in theory, upload a 24-hour video. I think 24 hour might be the limit. It could be 10 hours. I'm not sure. I've never tried. I'm not that guy. So this is extreme, and the juice isn't worth the squeeze. One, it's really slow. It's going to beat the shit out of your disk or whatever you're using, just because the data rate is so high. It's like 100 megs a second or something ridiculous like that. So you're going to be maxed out. And then the file is enormous. If you don't have a big pipe, uploading it is going to take you years. And the quality difference between DNxHR and uncompressed is not even noticeable. It's not even worth talking about. So if you want the highest quality, I would highly recommend DNxHR on Windows, ProRes on Mac. Same codec in my opinion. Love them both. I wish we had native ProRes on PC in Resolve. I would much rather use ProRes just because the feature set is better than DNxHR. DNxHR is a little bit of an older codec. But you can use so I haven't used DNxHR for any other service other than YouTube. I don't know if it's supported by like Vimeo, Reddit, fucking Twitter, TikTok. Pretty sure it's not supported by TikTok. Fucking Instagram. I don't know. It's a little bit overkill for those other platforms. Most people are going to be looking at YouTube for, you know, the majority of their long form video content, and so you want it to look the best possible. Fortunately, YouTube's free for us anyway, and we don't get charged storage space because I'd be broke if they did. Questions, comments, queries even. So anything I went by too fast on, I can maybe swing back around and take another pass at. Always happy to go over this stuff with you guys. The delay sucks, so I gotta sit here. La 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 la. Yeah, so one little thing here, network optimization. This helps YouTube. This is more for streaming, and basically it just orders headers and frame data in a way that is consumable linearly through a network. So streaming, right? You're not necessarily going to get, you don't want frames arriving out of order, things of that nature. So network optimization is good if the video is going to be hosted on a streaming service, whether that's a file that is going to be streamed directly off of a file server, or if it's going to be Vimeo, YouTube, whatever. You get the same thing for MP4 as well. They all have the network optimization flag there. It's not necessary. It's not going to change the way it looks. It's going to change the way it behaves once you've uploaded it. Oh, God. Yeah, so that is pretty much it. Next week we're talking about basic corrections. So next week is really when we start getting into the weeds about how to work with video itself, and less about the theory and the tools and stuff. Hey, no problem, Falconrad. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Have a good meal. Have a good meal. So next week we're going to get into the weeds on correction before we get into the creative actual color grading process. And this is where audience participation would be grand. If you guys want to get some clips in to the Discord that I can work with live on the stream in real time, you know, something I haven't seen before, so we can kind of discover it together. And that way I can step by step walk through what I do, how I assess it, and how the corrections will work. That would be awesome. If you guys want to get some clips in, we can do that next week. Otherwise, I'm here for questions for a little bit. It seems like I got everything sorted out. I tried to be as detailed as possible. I see 8 concurrent viewers, so I haven't put everybody to sleep yet. A lot of y'all made it this far. That's okay, dude. I mean, it's not like a requirement, right? But like next week is the show you want to submit video for, right? We're going to talk about corrections, and I'm honestly running out of fucking content. So it has just been ugly and gross for months, it feels like. In fact, when I shot the 3 cameras, that was the last half decent day that I could actually get out. I think the sun has come out twice since then, but only for an hour or two. And by the time I was done with work and I could actually get out, it was gone. So now it's a frozen tundra hellscape outside. You know, no way with the wind that we have am I going to put any kind of drone in the air. But yeah, so fun times are here again. If you have any additional questions, you're laying awake in bed and you're thinking, oh fuck, I should have asked that, hit me up on the Discord. I will answer as soon as I get an opportunity to. And like I said, get your Google Drive links in, or OneDrive, or Box, or Dropbox, or whatever the fuck it is you kids use these days. Get some untouched footage up, and go ahead and take a look at Songbird FPV's submission in the Critique My Grade. Maybe leave a comment. Be sure to give him a like on the tubes as well. Make sure he feels the love. And I will have a look at that clip and give my thoughts in detail, probably early this week. So, hey, you know what? That's fine, dude. If questions only like occur to you at night, I mean, write them down, hit me in the Discord. I'll answer when I can. This is like absolutely just for you guys. So, I want to help as much as I can. Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate that. We will definitely see you next time as well. Oh yeah, Falcon Rad, that'd be great, dude. I'd love to work with some of your content. Absolutely. 0.5 terabyte unused footage. Yeah, dude. Throw some Google Drive links up, or one link to everything. That's fine. I'll pick and choose. No, that's great, dude. I would love to work with some of your footage. That'd be a lot of fun. No problem, Bart. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bob. Thumbs up, baby. All right, guys. Let me get this shit together here. Okay, cool. Well, this is the shortest one we've had so far. Next week will probably be longer, because we're going to be working with hopefully several clips. We can kind of reiterate over the same thing. You know, these first 3 weeks has been about teaching the concepts and then teaching some of the practical theory behind it, and then, you know, hardware, software, and now we're getting into setting up the project. And next week we finally embark on let's fuck with some video. I know we've done it before on the stream, but not as a part of the Color Grading 101. It was usually just me going way too fast for anybody to keep up with and talking like everybody knew what the hell I was talking about. So again, big ups to Flexo for pointing that out to me and giving me an opportunity to set things straight and create this 8-week curriculum. And hopefully by the end of it, you guys will be off to Hollywood to get your $7,000 a day job and grading the next great blockbuster. So till then, I'll see you guys next week. Okay.